Hey YouTube, Purple Ace here. Being a couple of days away from YCS Providence, I know a couple of players want to take under the radar decks so their deck isn't cited against well. And that's what I want to talk about today. Some decks that are under the radar that can surprise your opponent, that they aren't ready to play or aren't cited well against, and could show a pretty good standing. So onwards towards the first deck that I think could show a pretty good standing has to be Prophecies. This deck has been picking up a little bit of popularity lately. I know Billy Brake played him at his regionals. The deck is pretty good. It's going to be really good next set when more supports comes out for it. I know the main monster has to be High Priestess. It's the dark arm of the deck. It's easier to summon than Dark Arm. You can special summon from your hand by revealing 3 spell books. There's a spell book to life if it's in your graveyard, and it can be brought out using Temperance, and that's the main point of the deck right now. It's get Temperance, activate a spell book trigger effect to get High Priestess, and protect your High Priestess. And I know it's actually easy because of this card. It's the spellbook that searches out for the other spellbooks in the deck. It thins out your deck quite a bit, so it lets you have better draws. And the deck nobody really knows about this deck that much. It came out in Return of the Duelist. Not that many people have cards ready to side against it, so that's why I think this is a good deck to play right now. Yeah. Now onward for the next deck, I'm thinking X-Sabers. Yes, X-Saber is an old deck that uses synchros. This deck is really good. Has a lot of potential still. It still has their infinite card hand loop, whatever you call it, with their Gotems. Yeah, Gotems. It sets up pretty nice. The only thing that can hurt it though has to be Deep Fissures. But if your opponent's not siding them, or if your opponent's not siding them, then it's pretty much good. Because I know a lot of people don't know how to side against this deck. The main thing about this deck is it special summons quite a lot, and it has a lot of recruiters. It has a giant rat type of monster. It has a searcher. It has cards that make you special summon easily, and it has cards to back it up. Next, for the third deck we're going to talk about is Gladiator Beasts. This is a deck that some people enjoy playing a lot. It does take quite a bit of skill to play it. The thing about this deck is not that many people side against it. I know that in my side deck, I don't have cards for it at all. Cards like Deep Fissure, Macro, and other cards that send cards that are banished after they're removed to the grave. Those don't hurt this because all they do is just tag team back to the deck in and out, in and out. There's quite a bit of variance of this deck. I know there's the Hero Lives variant where you use Test Tiger and Elemental Prisma, but the deck is all around well good. It has quite a bit of potential. It has back row destroying. It has monster destroying. It can also have a little bit of a wall at times depending on the right build. But I know this is a good deck. I know they have a really powerful card. One of their best power cards has to be their War Chariot, which is kind of like a Herald, but it's a trap and doesn't cost that much of a requirement to activate it. So I think that's pretty good. Not that many people are excited for it, and that's unexpected. Next, I have to say Junk Doppel. This is probably one of my favorite decks of all times. Not that many people are used to seeing it nowadays because the meta is so into Exceeds, and this deck's all about synchroing. I know there's, depending on the build that you make, I know there's builds that are designated for a certain card, such as there's builds where you put in the plant engine right now and try to summon Quasar as fast as possible. That's one possibility you could take on it. You have powerful synchro stills, even such as Hyper Librarian and Catastor, which are really good ones right now. The deck has such a great power. It can summon synchros as fast as possible, and it always comes back as well. And what I mean by that is, if your opponent goes crazy and goes off, let's say you're playing a wind-up player, and they call spells, and they have no really defense, but they have quite a bit of monsters. This deck's quite a bit of monster effect, and you could come back from that and actually extend a little bit more than they can, and still at the end of that turn you will have a field presence, and they probably won't even suspect it. They're like, dang, I just did all this and I lost all of it, now I can't recover. And that pretty much is good about the deck. Cards that could hurt it, I know one card that hurts it for sure has to be it's a card called Intercept Wave. It came out in the Shining Darkness. Nobody has it in their side deck, nobody knows what it does, so that's a good card. But there's not that many cards on the side deck that are meant for synchro based decks. Next, for the last deck I want to talk about, it's a really good deck, and I'm talking about Gravekeepers. This deck has a lot of potential. It has everything that a deck needs in order for it to win. It has a Searcher, it has a Recruiter, yeah, Recruiter, and it has Necro Valley. And Necro Valley is their most powerful card in this deck. It hurts a lot of decks. I know for sure a couple of decks that it will hurt would be Windups, because they won't get their rat effect, and it will also hurt another deck that's popular right now, which would be Inzectors, because they won't be able to target their Hornet once it's in the grave. It has cards that get around Necro Valley, which is one like Gravekeeper Stell here, which recruits 2 Gravekeepers from your grave. It has another thing about Necro Valley is that it gives all your monsters a boost of 500. Something that the Seal of Orichalcos does as well, but Necro Valley is such an all-around better card than the Seal of Orichalcos. It has the destruction power with Descendant. It has easily goes into rank 4 monsters quite a bit, and can play quite a bit of beat. I know there's certain builds, or like a Malefic build, where they would use Malefic Cyber End Dragon, Malefic Cyber End Dragon, and just beat down your opponent that way. But yeah, this deck's nobody really prepares for this deck. Probably the only thing that can hurt this deck would probably be what's that one card? Shadow Imprisoning Mirror, because it stops everything. Because majority of the deck is dark. This deck is easily achievable to get. It was originally a structure deck and has been reprinted as Ultras in the Legendary Collection, so it's pretty quite easy to get. It's more of a budget deck now. Yeah, so that's what I think about under the radar decks for in case you're going to a locals, regionals, or if you're going to Providence. So those are probably some of my deck ideas you might want to take in. I know majority of these decks aren't really cited against. It's really unexpected. Sometimes when you're playing your opponent, they have to read every single card you're using because they don't remember or they don't know what it does. I know there's more under the radar decks such as Rock Stun or Black Wings, but those cards there's universal side cards in your opponent's deck that might hurt those, and I was trying to avoid that with this. So thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, rate, all that good stuff. Until next time, pieces.